welcome in the Prime Ministerial candidate for Forward Guyana Movement, Mr. Nigel London. Is Mr. London with us? Yes, he is. Good morning, and how are you?
Good morning, and I'm certainly doing well. I trust that you are well also. Thank you for having me here on the Reset Talk Show.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you. Let's get right into it, candidate London. Would you agree that this is the most consequential election in the history of Guyanese elections? And if so, why?
Thank you for asking. I would certainly agree with that because it's one in which we have got quite a number of decisions to make as Guyanese that we would not have had not had to make a few years ago, a few electoral cycles ago. Some of which happen to be, unfortunately, even that regarding how the state or how the government or administration treats with our safety and our well-being. It's unusual to know that Guyanese now have to go to the polls and decide whether they would choose someone or a party that would be likely to send police officers, as we've experienced so often in this country, send police officers out on the streets with live ammunition without warning or anything and just shoot at us and kill us on our roadways. Whether we're going to have our children, as in the case of Adriana Young, go missing, as far as we're concerned, she was abducted, and have the state try to defend or protect those who have done harm to that child. So those are some of the things we have to look at, where police officers are used to protect those who are suspects in criminal activities, as in the case of Adriana Young, rather than to go to seek to find her and to ensure that she's safe. So the focus of Fall Ghana movement is not just about whether these elections are so critical because of wealth or because of opportunities, but more so it's come down to survival and the well-being of Guyanese in general. And that to us is very, very telling, because we should never get here should not have gotten here as a nation. We should have never been in this place whereby Guyanese don't have to decide whether we choose to live or die under a dictatorial regime.
Audience, if you're just joining us, we are in our international segment early today. Tell a friend to tell a friend. We have the Prime Ministerial candidate for Forward Guyana Movement here with us, Mr. Nigel London of the opposition. Candidate London, do you think this will be a free and fair election? Let me go a little bit deeper. Your presidential candidate, Mansell Walton Desir, just called out GCOM for the official list of electors, which is total 757,690 electors, which is almost the same as the country's last population and 100,000 more than the electors in 2020. What would you say to that?
We do not expect these elections to be free, fair, or credible. And the reason being is that GCOM has not given us cause to believe the same. When we've got situations with that very list of electors that GCOM would have published, there's some very interesting and quite unusual figures therein. There are 2 or 3 districts that have the identical figure. Now, we're beginning to wonder whether people were making telephone calls a few years ago to say, let's make babies tonight so we can, or begin the process so we can have just about the same number of adults in our various regions. It is frightening to know that these numbers are being thrown at us as Guyanese, and we cannot have any way of checking them or doing the necessary due diligence to ensure that they're actually what they are. What we do know, though, is that certain terms have begun to be introduced to us by the Attorney General, Anil Nandlal, such as xenophobia. We've never heard those terms in any election in Guyana's history. Why would an Attorney General have to speak to Guyanese about warning us against xenophobia? Is it that he's announcing to us that in these elections of 2025, there will be individuals who are voting in our elections who are not Guyanese by birth or who may just be added to some lists? The conduct of Claudette Singh, the chair of GCOM, has caused us to be even more alarmed, in that over 5 years after so many election observers have made recommendations, including the EU observers, Carter Center and others, that we should have biometrics employed, which of course will give some degree of confidence to the electorate. 5 years have passed and Claudette Singh blatantly refused. She actually voted on the side of the PPP, their commissioners, to have Guyanese disenfranchised in this regard, in the context that we're not confident that there will be anything called the free and fair and credible elections in this country under the GCOM as we know it. Additionally, there are many Commonwealth nationals who are now brought into the country to work, Bangladeshis and so on. And the PPP, along with Claudette Singh, yet again, GCOM, have not presented to Guyanese anything called a census, which was conducted recently, the results thereof, for us to know who will be involved in our electoral processes. Finally, Venezuelans, according to Robert Prasad, the foreign secretary in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, he admitted and spoke to the fact that there are over 100,000 Venezuelans or those with connections to Venezuela who have migrated into Guyana. Now, do we know what will happen to us if we have those number of people holding ID cards being eligible to vote? We don't know. So we don't know where this number came from, 757,000 electors. But what we do know is that the chart which was presented to us by GCOM is quite suspicious in reference to, as I say again, the similarity in numbers and in some cases the identical nature of the figures.
Well, Mr. London, I'm glad you're unpacking it for the diaspora and even the Guyanese citizens. So let's continue as we talk about how this election is being shaped. Okay, according to reports, 90% of the Guyanese public or Guyanese citizens know which party they're voting for. But the 10% of the undecided voters are Gen Zers, I mean, ages 18 to 28. What is your message to those undecided voters?
Our message is quite clear, and I think it resonates with them. Henceforth, the Ghana movement has begun to gain significant traction in reference to our being accepted in every region to which in which we've entered. Persons are saying the same thing and echoing that which is our sentiment. There has to be a different Guyana. There has to be a different culture in our society. No more should be the days when you have to choose a color, be it red or green, and that's where you belong. If you decide to do anything else, then you become an enemy. The younger folk in our nation has decided they don't want to deal with that. They have had enough of the tribal nature of politics in our country and the manner in which parties are used or people to pit used to pit people against each other, and you fight, and then it becomes ethnically charged and so on. We're saying to you, the younger population, undecided voters, there's a reason why you are undecided, and that has to do with what do you want to see and what you have not been seeing. And based on our assessment, we recognize that what they want to see would be political movements that involve them, that have their best interests at heart, and do not use them as pawns in a game. So to those of you who have to make that decision come the 1st of September, it's very simple. Think about representation. The reason why I have been accepted across the nation, even in what people may call PNC or PPP strongholds, is that persons, of course, due to social media, have said they've recognized the extent to which they have been represented. It doesn't matter your ethnic group to which you belong, anything. They recognize it as an individual who has stood for them for over 5 years, without being elected to do anything. It's a choice that I made to stand for our people, all Guyanese. And the youth of our country have said to my children, my daughters are in that age range, and they said that their friends have told them that we would like your father and for Ghana movement to be the party in power because you represent us, and that's important. They're represented, and more so, we believe that this generation, they want people to respect their dreams and respect their values and what they want to accomplish, not just give them little handouts and buttons and go and buttons and so on and beans as with the Columbus time. No, we want you to understand that we can build Guyana together. We can do this as if you're family. And what are your dreams? What do you desire to be? What are your ambitions? Speak to us about it. We have engaged you before, and we said to you that we're going to do everything in our power to ensure that together we develop this nation. So we are not a handout political party. We are a hand up political party where this movement builds Guyana with Guyanese and for Guyanese, not where we just hand them out gifts and bid for their support. Somebody gives you $100,000, you give it $200,000. They pop up to tomorrow 250. We're not doing that. We have realistic objectives, and that includes allowing our youth of our country to develop and to have their dreams realized while they live. It has to be a mandate of all in reference to the Forward Ghana movement and how we function here in or hereafter.
We're having a conversation with the prime ministerial candidate for Forward Guyana Movement, of course, of the opposition. Uh, Candidate London, you mentioned race. We must note that Guyanese politics have been influenced by racial and ethnic divisions. Okay, the Indo-Guyanese, they would support the PPP, and the Afro-Guyanese, they would support the PNC. If your party prevails come September 2nd, how will these divisions be assessed to promote social cohesion?
I certainly love that question. And the question will certainly, or has lent itself to my telling Guyanese why I have not voted since 1992. I stayed away from Guyanese politics because that very reason. I could not accept as a young man that all of my vote or my power to elect anyone was based on how I look, on my ethnic, my phenotype, how I appear. I could not accept that. And whenever the 5-year cycle would have come to an end and persons are here again to speak to me regarding elections, I speak to the bottom house meetings here in Ghana where we're up off the camera, off air. People say things to you, you have to vote your race. You have to ensure that we don't get the Indians in, or Indians say don't get the Africans in because you'll fight and they'll kill you. And it was amplified by Barra Jagdeo, who in 2015, I think it would have been said that Granger and the Africans will have soldiers come and kick your door down and stuff like that. And he was in court for making such a statement, by the way. I recognize that if for Ghana movement, if we are to be given the mantle or the responsibility to lead this nation, we would have to be very deliberate about how we approach the ethnic divide that's been created through politics. But here's what we've done. Before we even have that opportunity, what we did is before elections, we demonstrated our intention, which is that we're not going to just play the game of saying that in order to have an image of unity, we'll have a presidential candidate who's of one ethnic group and then a prime minister candidate of another ethnic group. So we didn't go about hunting for people to say, just because you're of Indian descent, you can be the prime minister candidate, or you want some native Guyanese. No, we didn't do that. We are presenting to Guyanese from now the concept and the reality that Guyana must be served by Guyanese, not of any ethnic anything. Guyana's best interest lies in the hands of Guyanese. And for us to unite and function well, we must respect the fact, because even in choosing candidates for prime ministers or presidents, parties display, probably unbeknownst to them or subconsciously, they display racism. Because if I have to deliberately choose somebody of another ethnic group just to please an ethnic class, it tells me then that we're looking at the color of a man's skin or the texture of his or her hair, and not, as Martin Luther said, the content of that person's character. Guyana cannot thrive in an environment whereby anything called Afro-Guyanese, Indo-Guyanese, Native Guyanese becomes the terminology we use to describe people. We are people. We are Guyanese. Of course, we cannot forget or deny our ancestry, but we must not use that to determine how we function in society. Additionally, wherever there is a hint of ethnic hostility, there has to be very, very strong and stringent measures put in place to terminate that behavior. And the current composition of the Ethnic Relations Commission has lent itself to this bad behavior, this inappropriate conduct, because the ERC is politically governed at this time by the PPP, and they do nothing to, note my language please, to terminate this behavior. It has to stop. And it has to stop because Guyanese would understand that we would not entertain any behavior that speaks of hostility against anyone based on the ethnic background. And that must be one or dealt with very, very strongly and quite condemnably. We cannot have a Ghana anymore whereby whenever 5 years are approaching, people utilize the texture of your hair, the color of your skin to be a cause for which you will vote. That has to stop. And it'll be stopped by any party who's responsible.
Thank you, Candidate London. We definitely want to talk about Forward Guyana Movement Manifesto. But before we get there, I want to bring in our intimate panel for some questions. I also want to throw this out at you. We definitely want to touch on the teachers, the nurses, the doctors,
Sure.
and people of profession in Guyana. I mean, when I grew up in Guyana, if you were a teacher or a nurse or a doctor, your wages were up there and you were respected.
Yes.
So we definitely have to touch on that. Let's bring in the rabbi and Donatella and Dr. Giddings. But I want to start with the rabbi. Why I want to start with the rabbi is because when you look at Guyana and the neighboring countries, surrounding Guyana, there are Jewish communities, and I know for a fact, the Rabbi and I, we talk a lot. Right now, they have a small community of Jews in Guyana, so I would like to bring him in and show how diverse we are and why the Reset Talk show is so unique and diverse. Welcome in,
Excellent.
Rabbi Cohen. How are you?
Hi, good morning, and I enjoyed hearing your platform, and certainly wish you success in your in your in your mission to do for your country, and that's really great, and it's wonderful you're
Thank you.
involved in that process. And you know, recently a couple of rabbis actually traveled from our community to Guyana, and they spent a little time there, and believe it or not, there is I couldn't call it a community, but there's a sprinkling of Jewish people living there, some involved in agriculture, some involved in technology. There's one very long-standing farm not far from Georgetown, which is run by a Jewish man. So they found an interesting, and that has been true for many, many years, that there's always been travelers and people going through from the community. Some of the, as JR said, some of the neighboring communities like Suriname and other countries have a more established Jewish community, and I'm not sure why Guyana hasn't. And is there an opportunity there to bring in knowledge, to bring in engineering skills, import Israeli agriculture technology relating to water and so on? There's a lot of different things that can be done by working together. Cooperation between communities.
Thank you so much for the question. I really appreciate that. For Ghana movement, we're open to working with anyone from any nation who has an interest in developing Guyana. We understand the global dynamics of our country and the world at large. We must be able to work together in the best interest of each other. And so there will always be an avenue for us to have interactions, for us to have discussions as to how we're able to develop our nation. So if there's another territory nation, for example, Israel, with technology that's more advanced than ours, of course, I'm quite familiar with how well you've been able to function in the agricultural sector. You would welcome that because it's healthy for all of us as Guyanese to be able to have a better society in which we will live. What I can share with you is that the transactional nature in which we do business many times would have hurt us in reference to the PPP, the current regime, where people would come into our country and they're given massive swaths of land, they're given opportunities, but it is being done uh, in reference to what we call kickbacks and bribery and these things. That you will never tolerate. But as long as the mission is to improve the livelihood of Guyanese and the quality of life of Guyanese, we would certainly welcome any and everyone who has got that understanding.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you.
You're most
Okay.
welcome.
Donatelli, your question for candidate London.
Hi, candidate London. It is a pleasure to meet with you, and thank you, Rabbi Cohen. I almost call you Reverend for for a second there. I'm sorry, Rabbi Cohen, for your question, because my question is also along that line of reasoning. So I generally ask questions about the diaspora in particular. And I happen to know several small businesses, some with religious affiliation, some in tech, who are currently doing things independently in Guyana to help people within the country. As a candidate for president, how would you be looking to work with people, specifically people from the diaspora who may or may not still have family at home, but are currently, doing their own thing with donations, or even trying to build? Because I think I have one client who wants to do prefab buildings, homes in Guyana. What are your plans to kind of leverage that level of expertise and ensure, like you said, there is no fraud or kickbacks or things of that nature?
Thank you. I appreciate the question. I'm a prime ministerial candidate or presidential candidate as a man's Walton Desir. And when we observe Guyana, it's really quite an interesting environment in which we find ourselves. In that there has been more Guyanese living overseas than they are at home. Quite unusual, quite abnormal, but interesting, and it's really an opportunity for us to attract those in the diaspora to, if not return, which is what we love to have happen, because the more people you have on the ground, the better it is for us to have opportunities to really develop and benefit directly from their involvement. But if they're unable to do so or unwilling to do so this time, we still engage those in the diaspora and encourage you to invest in your nation, because for the Guyana movement is about nation building. And how do we build a better or a different Guyana? We cannot do that with the population we have here, but what we can do is utilize the expertise, utilize the experiences that others would have had in diaspora, and bring it home. Bring your understanding, your ideas here. So those with an interest in investing in prefab housing or be it agriculture or probably hopefully we have someone who is an interest in maybe manufacturing or assembling vehicles or something here in
Yes.
Guyana. Because if we have that, we can help to develop better industries, more so Guyanese owned industries. We believe that our country must be proud to say that we have Guyanese who are skilled enough to function in neuroscience or in engineering in these areas. So we would welcome certainly those in the diaspora, and we already have an engagement with them, whereby we are saying to you, Guyana is home, Guyana is the motherland, and Guyana is where we can return to build, if not in person, just do so in whatever way you can, but let's reinvest in our nation's well-being.
I think that's excellent. And thinking about what they're doing in Ghana, and me seeing
Yes.
quite a few of my colleagues and friends who are now acquiring citizenship in other countries, some not even being from that country. I was speaking to one of my Guyanese clients before the show, and I asked her what would her feelings be if, you know, the new president had, let's say, an entire campaign about dual citizenship, because as you know, Ghana has done that with quite a few celebrities and just about anybody right now.
Yes. Yeah, it's good and it's healthy for a nation's development, because what I've lived overseas for 15 years, 12 to 15 years, and it's helped me to understand the power of interacting with people from different nations. So when you have a diverse society, then there's a lot more tolerance, there's a lot more understanding, and more than anything else, there's more information sharing. And that is what Far Ghana Movement is focusing on. How are we able to fill particular gaps with that knowledge, with that understanding, with that skill set? And if you cannot find it at home, our policy is it has to be found somewhere. For every problem in this world, there's someone who can solve it. The question is, can you find that individual? And we believe there are many Guyanese in the diaspora who can solve many problems we have at home. But what they were not encouraged was to return because of political climates, because of corrupt politicians, because of very, very evil schemes and systems. Even the safety, the security became a factor. And they said, well, if we come here, what would happen to us as people? We are looking at every facet and every aspect of life that'll be able to be a magnet to Guyanese, and not just Guyanese, but anyone who has an interest in developing this nation with us. Because the US, of course, was built not by the hands of US citizens alone. And we understand that model. We understand how well it can work. So if you want to be here and you say that there's something to offer, or you have the ability, because we believe that people fall in two categories in life in general. You either create a problem or you solve it, generally speaking. So if we have those who can solve our problems in Guyana, we will welcome you at all costs. We have to. And so dual citizenship is something that is very important and critical, because you understand that people feel as if when you call a citizen of a country, you have certain benefits therein, and you feel as if you are a part of her development. And that's what we're about here in Guyana. So we would welcome having a larger population because it benefits us in many ways.
Thank you. Let me turn it over to Dr. Giddings, who I'm sure
Donatella, right now, what we have to do, we have to take a commercial break. Candidate London, can you stay with us for another 10 minutes or so? We got to touch on two major topics, but we want to get Dr. Giddings in. We'll take a commercial break. When we come back, we'll come back with Dr. Giddings, of course, Rabbi Cohen, and the prime ministerial candidate, Mr. London. We'll take a commercial break and we will be right back.
Things happen fast on the street. Your speed can feel slow when you're driving, but if you hit someone, It's terrifyingly fast. Drivers, look for pedestrians and cyclists. And slow your turns to 5 miles per hour. Speeding ruins lives. Slow down.
Looking to purchase a home or refinance your current mortgage? At Lucid Mortgage, we offer a wide range of products and can help you find the best rate by contacting multiple lenders. And all this will cost you less than working with a big bank. Our process is quick, easy, and we're always working with your best interest in mind. Give us a call to get started with a loan program that fits your needs.
Whatever your audiology needs are, we are here to help. Our full-time staff includes doctors of audiology, graduate student clinicians, community and hospital liaisons, as well as compassionate patient care coordinators. We screen for, diagnose, and treat hearing loss in a diverse population of all ages. We work closely with primary care physicians, otolaryngologists, and other healthcare providers to ensure that we are treating the whole person, not just their hearing.
Have you been looking for a family lawyer? Check out melniacordeslaw.com, the lawyer that you can seek out for your legal needs. Check out melniacordeslaw.com. Call us at 929-610-0074. We provide comprehensive legal services, including immigration, divorces, real estate representation, will preparation, probate, and administration. We also help you to form a business or nonprofit organization. Check out melniacordeslaw.com. Call us at 929-610-0074. Melnia Cordes Law is the place for you. New York City Health and Hospitals Community Care Certified Home Health Agency job openings. Positions available. Behavioral health nurse, community health nurse, annual salary $109,491. Registered dietitian, dietitian level 3, annual salary $64,700 to $69,337. Speech language pathologist, home health speech language pathologist per visit $84.14. Travel is required. Wound care nurse, annual salary $116,376. Nurse educator, nurse educator level 1, annual salary $136,557. New York City Health and Hospitals offers a competitive benefits package that includes comprehensive health benefits for employees working 20 plus hours per week, retirement savings and pension plans, loan forgiveness programs for eligible employees, paid holidays and vacations in accordance with employers' collectively bargained contracts, college tuition discounts and professional development opportunities, multiple employee discount programs. New York Health and Hospitals is an EEO employer. Kindness and care are built into our mission and our I-Care values: integrity, compassion, accountability, respect, excellence. Please scan above or send your resume to Community Care Careers at nychhc.org.
Oil is transforming Guyana, and the entire Caribbean is watching. But beneath the promise of prosperity lies a deeper risk: the rising threat of climate change. Oil and Climate Change in Guyana's Wet Neighborhood explores this high-stakes intersection of economics, politics, and the environment. Author Ive Law Lloyd Griffith takes you inside the region's oil ambitions and reveals how climate vulnerability could shape its future. This isn't just a policy debate. It's about coastlines vanishing, livelihoods shifting, and choices that will define generations. Packed with insight, data, and sharp analysis, this book is essential reading for anyone who cares about the Caribbean's future. Are we on a path to progress or peril? Dive into the story that affects us all: Oil and Climate Change in Guyana's Wet Neighborhood by Ive Law Lloyd Griffith.
Welcome back. Welcome back. This is the Reset Talk Show. We are in our international segment, and we're less than 14 days away from the most consequential election in the history of elections in Guyana, South America. We have here with us this morning the prime ministerial candidate in Mr. Nigel London of Forward Guyana, of the Forward Guyana movement. Mr. London, I'd like to bring in our pediatrician, who is also Guyanese, for her question before we continue. Welcome, Dr.
Morning.
Good morning.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I
You can hear
can.
Okay, wonderful. Good morning, Mr. London. Good to see you. Welcome to the platform. Thanks for all of
Thank
your
you.
great insights and information. Being a Guyanese, I'm also a pediatrician, recently retired. So I'm one of those in the diaspora that would like to contribute. And as you mentioned, I'm really interested in the public safety and how you plan to confront that aspect, and public health as well, because it can also generally affect the quality of life of Guyanese people there. And then second question is with the oil endowment, so to speak. How will that affect or benefit the Guyanese citizens? And as Norway has a wealth fund for their citizens, is that part of the plan, or what's the plan in terms of the oil with the Guyanese citizens?
Thank you for those two questions, and I certainly appreciate the fact that you have an interest in our nation. In reference to the safety, public safety, we very, very stern regarding how we treat our Guyanese well-being. And one of the main focuses of for Guyana movement has to be is on the Guyana police force and the manner in which that entity functions. Because when there are, and that's why these elections are so critical, we've never before seen so many police officers being fingered in corrupt practices and being sanctioned. One of them, a senior ranking official, was sanctioned by the US the other day for involvement in drug trafficking and cocaine trafficking. And he's a senior police officer. And so once we find that degree of corruption in the Ghana police force, then obviously the safety of our citizens would become compromised. What we're focusing on in For Ghana movement is a complete overhaul of that entity. We have to examine how the commissions of police function, how are they even appointed, what qualifies one to be that, and what measures are in place for independent bodies to scrutinize the function of Ghana police force. These things are very important and very critical to the well-being of our Guyanese. And so that is one area we have to pay attention to. Our judicial system has been severely compromised because of again, Ghana has become a very corrupt society, and the corruption index we rank pretty high because of the People's Progressive Party and what they've been able to thrive on, which is corrupt practices, corrupting so many officials, and being able to utilize, and that would cause me to transition into your second question, to utilize the wealth we've acquired from our natural resource in oil, utilize those funds, utilize the access to an insurmountable amount of wealth, of money, and they're using it to control many aspects of our society. And so, although it's a mammoth task, it is not impossible, but we have to begin where it matters most, which is our citizens' security and well-being. Everyone in Guyana must feel safe again. And you cannot feel safe if you are well aware that police officers, senior ranking officials are corrupt, and not by Guyanese observation, but by evidence acquired by the US and other territories to say that we have got law enforcement officers at the upper tier who are involved in cocaine smuggling. Now, how much worse can you get? When one stood in front of a hotel and lied on behalf of the owner, whoever it was, to say to Adriana Young's mother that the girl left in a car. That's an assistant commissioner, the third rank, highest rank official in police force, lied for somebody, not to protect Adriana, but to protect someone who's perpetrated an act, a criminal act. And so those things have to be taken into serious consideration. In reference to the sovereign wealth that we have, we've got a natural resource fund, and actually by law, it's a Natural Resource Fund Act that speaks to how our wealth in reference to oil should be handled and how we should be able to have some equity and so on in reference to how we function. What has happened though is that this regime called the People's Progressive Party would have ignored, in many instances, even what is in law. What they've enacted, they rushed this through Parliament. That's when you had the situation of the mace being grabbed and so on. They rushed that through Parliament and then would have turned around to just disregard such a significant and critical, vital piece of information. So what Ford Ghana movement has decided to do, would have decided to do, is to revisit and investigate very, very intensely how was our oil wealth handled? Were there any actions, and we know that they are, by the regime that would have caused us to have our wealth being squandered? And how do we deal with this? But here's the interesting part, Doctor. We have got in the Natural Resource Fund Act a very important penal clause which speaks to the action of the Minister of Finance. Now, this is important for every Ghanaian to hear me today. It speaks to the responsibilities of the Minister of Finance to appoint the board and so on. Do you know what the PP have done? There is no Minister of Finance in Guyana. Hear this. For 5 years, somebody stood in the National Assembly and read budgets, and he's never called the Minister of Finance. He's called the Minister in the office of the president with responsibility for finance. Now, there's a difference. So if or when Ford Ghana movement attempts to have, or any party, to have Ashley Singh answer, Ashley can easily say, I was never Minister of Finance. I was senior minister in the office of the president with responsibility for finance. So they're playing certain games thinking that they can escape. But we in Ford Ghana movement have committed to Guyanese that it doesn't matter what terminology they use, whoever had a hand in dealing with our resources in a manner that did not benefit all Guyanese, you will have to answer. It doesn't matter what tax you sought to bear. We have means of fixing it. But it's just important for every Guyanese to get.
Thank you, Dr. Giddings. Great question. Candidate London, we have some of the best minds in the country, and as you see the angles that we're taking,
Yes,
to give the listeners a chance to really understand everything from A to Z. I mean, we were supposed to have a candidate from the APNU that had to reschedule, so that puts you in a great position because you get his time as well. So
I'm grateful.
So what we're gonna lean in on now, as you talk about corruption, let's talk about the latest allegations about gold smuggling. Is this the tipping point in this election? Do you see a shift because of this allegations about gold smuggling? Do you think this would help to shape the elections this year?
Thank you. We do not consider it to be the tipping point. For us, a Guyana Young situation would have been the tipping point, because that is the first time in recent history where Guyanese of Indian descent would have taken to, especially females, taken to social media and they've said, with their faces being present, we are done with you all. That didn't happen when we heard of this last quite telling interview conducted by Travis Chase. Adriana Young situation made Guyanese realize that the People's Progressive Party were prepared to do anything to protect their friends. So much so that a young nurse, in the person of Nurse King Lewis, was deemed a terrorist for what they said to be essentially lying. So we have new laws where if you do not tell the truth, you can be called a terrorist. The men and women in this country today who languish in jail and remand because the magistrate said they would not have any bail, no bail, for burning tires on the road, burning wood on the road. Instead of these young men saying, well, we're going to kill the police because they're mad, they said, no, we won't do that. They took to the street and burnt tires, and Anil Nandlal said that they are terrorists. So that would have been the tipping point. And what came after would have just been what we consider to be even more information that's already been established. Because let's not forget the people we had friends before who were accused of gold smuggling. Now we're trying to figure out how many more are on the list to have been guilty or found to be involved in smuggling gold. Because here's what happened, Mr. Gill. In the early 2000s, when gold price had been about $1,000+ US per ounce, declarations have been in the 50%, about 50 percentile range. Now, last year, when gold prices began to spike and it went up to about $3,000 US per ounce, you would expect that more gold would be declared. or maybe probably the same number, because it tells you that the prices are at 600 plus thousand Ghana dollars per ounce. So people will be ready to pay more gold. Interestingly, it plummeted. So you have more miners under the PPP. They're sharing out dredges and so on, but less gold is being declared and the price is even higher. And then we have to accompany that this interview with Mr. Baksh, who said that he was involved in smuggling or paying money to have gold, and a middleman more or less, smuggled across the border with Venezuela. And the Guyanese have recognized that the level of corruption in our nation is so high that nothing surprises us anymore. There's certain names that are being constantly repeated. Only thing in this case in Mr. Bak's interview is that he mentioned a relative of the president, I think his mother, who would have been, or his aunt, who would have been one of the people who was a collector. That has never, we haven't heard that before. But we know that there's corruption. And since the PVP, again, not the first in their part, in the House of Assembly said that no member of parliament can use the word corruption, that spoke volumes to every Guyanese, because we knew that if any party is against you using the term corruption, we have an anti-corruption law in itself. How do we not know that these people are very corrupt and very diabolical in their behavior?
Thank you for that, Candidate London. But last, before we leave, we have to represent the servicemen, the teachers,
Yes.
the nurses, the doctors that are at the bottom of the pay scale. If Forward Guyana movement prevails September 2nd, what will you do for professional Guyanese?
I am really, really appreciative of your asking that question. And I'm happy that those in diaspora can hear the answer, the response in reference to the Forward Guyana movement. Our soldiers, we have an issue with Venezuela. I begin with those who matter quite a lot to us, or should at this time. Our soldiers at the border. We have a border issue with Venezuela, prevailing issue. Now, how could any caring administration have soldiers having to report to us that they hardly have food? They have to eat bread with jam or jelly every single day. The fresh water is a difficulty for them to have. When they were injured the other day, they had no boat of their own in reference to the GDF, the Defense Force, to transport injured soldiers. They had to borrow a little canoe-like structure, a vessel to transport them. These acts, in our view, should be considered to be criminal on the part of the administration. Forward Guyana movement has got a very extensive and quite focused plan on our military and professionals at large. The soldiers, for example, Irfan Ali said to the soldiers who were at the border, when Nicolas Maduro, the president of Venezuela, decided to make certain threats and of course, be his typical self. Ali said to those soldiers that an incentive for being at the border to protect our country, knowing how on demand we are, how ill-equipped we are in reference to weaponry and so on, that he will fast track their application for house lots. Not have it be free, not have them live in a community that's heavily subsidized by the administration. He would fast track the application. Our applications are sometimes 10, 15 years backlog. And he's in the fast track days. We're saying to you that no Guyanese, especially soldiers, should buy a house lot in this country. Our plan is that you would have no money to pay. You pay zero for a house lot. It's yours. Additionally, insurance. We know that you're on the front line. We know that you can be injured. We know the reality that you face. And as a result of that, there is or would be on our part a $20 million life insurance policy for every soldier, every serviceman, every policeman, whoever puts your life, those in the fire service as well. Your life is on the line. You seek to have our best interests at heart. You protect our nation. You serve our people. We're saying that if you're injured, if you die in the line of duty, you're entitled to $20 million, and that should be legally binding. That's the kind of stuff a plan we have in mind, and that's how much we care for our military personnel. If you die in the line of duty, you have a family. We're saying to you that your children will not have to beg. We've seen it with policemen and soldiers. They're injured, they lose a job, and they are asking for assistance. That is criminal. We're saying to you all, and please forgive my passion, Mr. Gibson, but this means a lot to me, JR. We're saying to soldiers that your family, your children and your wife must be taken care of by the state because you are on the front line to protect us. It is disgraceful to know that if you're injured I saw soldiers in bed asking for help because they cannot work any longer. That's insane. We in Forward Ghana movement have got on the cards plans that would certainly cause our servicemen and women to know how much you care about you. Even your medical insurance. If you're injured, just like Afan Ali's wife, who chose not to go to Georgian Public Hospital Corporation to make her last child, which is quite interesting. The president's wife didn't want to go to the public hospital to make her baby. She went to a private hospital. Why can't our soldiers and police officers choose where they want to go to make their babies? Why can they not have that same right? Because of the economic, what I call economic sanctions against our military people. Because as it comes out in our book, in For Ghana movement, we have a very clear understanding that those who serve this nation must be treated with the utmost care. The nurses and others, teachers and professionals in general, as you've spoken to, even their wages, their benefits. For a teacher to drive a car in this country, that person has to be promoted to being a head teacher or senior teacher. Why should that ever be? Because the taxation and how high the duties are in this country, teachers can't afford, unless they teach lessons and charge all kinds of sums of money to buy a car. We're saying to teachers that you will have all teachers, all Ghanaians, 35%, not 150% duty, not 200% duty of some luxury vehicle. You pay 35% duty. And if you're a first-time buyer and you want to have a vehicle, you're teaching, you're serving your country, a nurse or otherwise, we will deduct a further 15% to help you to have a car, anyone you want. Not to say you're not qualified for Lamborghini, you're not qualified for Range Rover. Buy what you want because you're Guyanese. And we want Guyanese that you must enjoy life in this country of yours. You must enjoy it. For housing, we think that you will have on the For Ghana movement a 3% housing program plan, where for 3% of the cost of your home, that's all you have to pay to have a house built by the state. Not 15%, not 20%. No. We're saying to you, the house start is free. The land is free, and we would help you. Every Guyanese, a janitor who helps to clean our facilities, must be able to have a house of his or her own. Why can you not have it? What makes any Guyanese in this country ineligible? Why must banks have a Guyanese feel as though they're failures? You know what it feels like for a father to go home to his son today or to his daughter today and tell his family that he cannot have a house for them because the bank told him he can't do it. His job as a janitor or a handyman disqualifies him. So if that person is cleaning our schools, cleaning our hospitals, of course, without them, you know what will happen. So if they're doing that service to us as a nation, why can't they own a home? Why must a bank tell you that you can't have it because your salary that the state pays you doesn't qualify? You're disqualified based on your earnings. That is an atrocity. So we're saying in For Ghana movement that we shall have a housing program where every Guyanese would sit with the housing agent and would tell us, we would discuss with you, how are you able to get your house? We will have that process as smooth as possible. And in some cases, we will subsidize the down payment so you can have a house of your own. We have way too much wealth. And why would I say that? For every dollar we spend in this country, Mr. JR, we have got a 41%, what is called an economic efficiency gap. That efficiency gap is for every dollar spent on the PVP, 41 cents goes missing to corruption or mismanagement. 41. So if we spend $1 billion, $410 million just disappears. And we know where it goes because you see ministers have big houses, they drive cars, their friends have got vehicles they can drive that no Guyanese, ordinary Guyanese can own, because 41 cents on every dollar goes missing under the PPP. Now, what if we were able to redeem that? Would Guyanese not be able to live a better life? Yes, they would. And these housing communities we speak about would be ones that are fully developed, not lakes and swamps like they have in Diamond. We wouldn't be building you houses in lakes and swamps and mosquitoes kill you. They'll be fully developed. The development will be subsidized by the state, and every Ghanaian must enjoy life. So public servants on the For Ghana movement, you would know because we work in the public service, and that's good. I was a teacher for years. Mr. Manzo Walton disease, she worked in government for 20 years or so. So we know what it feels like. We know as a teacher, I could never even dream about owning a house in Guyana. I couldn't go to a bank. I was disqualified before I entered the door. We're saying to you all, we will have that reverse now. And finally, the police officers, we know that how you were treated. We know that Ali got up, of course, in his usual manner, disregarding the law and say, I promote y'all. Here, vote for us, we promote you. That's illegal, by the way. But we're saying to you, whoever was bypassed and would have been overlooked and and treated unjustly, we will revisit every single case. And if you were eligible for promotion 10 years ago, you shall be promoted and we shall pay you that which you've lost. You deserve it. So as recompense, we shall give every person who would have been ill-treated and unjustly treated, you will receive back pay, as they call it, for the injustice you suffered at the hands of this regime. Because for the Ghana movement is about moving Ghana forward together. That's what it's about.
Thank you so much, Mr. London. Thank you for your time. Thank you for all that information that you unpacked for our listeners and our viewers. Next Wednesday is the last Wednesday before the election, and this bipartisan platform, we hope to have representatives from all of the different parties running this election. So,
including the PPP.
Including the PPP, absolutely. So
yeah, I'd love to hear them.
Enjoy the rest of your afternoon, and please come back. Somebody from the Forward Guyana movement should be on next week. Have a good afternoon.
Look forward to it. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.